Do you want to upgrade your home or expand your territory by buying the homes around you? Hey, this is Justin Hitt with Sustainable Wealth Secrets. That's exactly what Mark Zuckerberg did. That's exactly what Elon Musk is doing right now. They bought a home and then purchased the homes around them. Now, they did this for a couple very important reasons, and I will show you how this ties back to your wealth and prosperity. First off, there's a glutton of homes on the market today. The Wall Street Journal reports that there are 21 million homes going up on the market for aged baby boomers who are downsizing. Very often in places like in Palo Alto, where Mark Zuckerberg purchased, and in the areas where Bel Air, where Elon Musk purchased. Very often mansions and large homes can be purchased for pennies on the dollar because there aren't enough buyers in the marketplace. So the first lesson is understanding supply and demand. If you have a large supply of homes, the prices will go down. And if there's no demand, they'll go down even further. This allows you to purchase a home, a modest home, and then purchase the homes around it to expand your property size. So maybe you find a location you like, it's near schools that you like, but you can't get 5 acres. So you could buy 5 homes that are near each other and then connect them. In the case of Martinsville, Virginia, I purchased a home that has 40 acres behind it. Now, it's in the middle of the city, and it didn't go as smooth as I like it to. However, I'm backed up to the woods. Many of my clients and friends have purchased properties that are backed up to wildlife habitat. So their backyard is actually a conservation easement, and so there'll never be anybody there. So they have the convenience of being near the city. However, there won't be anybody behind their house. Now, why would Mark Zuckerberg, Elon Musk, and many affluent families purchase homes and then buy the homes around them, even in some cases buying the homes around them and bulldozing them? Well, first off, it allows you to create a bubble. Now, some people will say this is good. Some people say it's bad. But when you have a high demand, high stress job, a high income job, maybe you travel a lot, maybe you work odd shifts, you want to have peace and quiet in your home. I'm a big advocate of a quiet community because a quiet community increases in value, and a quiet community has lower crime and better educational outcomes. Why is this? Well, if you can get peace and quiet and sleep all night, then certainly you will have a better cognitive ability than most people. Another factor is that in some zoning, there's this thing called estate zoning. So if you have 1 acre of property, you might be zoned estate. But if you have 5 acres of property, you may be zoned estate with options to have agriculture on your property. So if you want a big garden, if you want rabbits or chickens or anything like that, very often you can get a 5 to 6 acre property and have those things, yet isolate yourself enough that the neighbors won't be frustrated or confused about what you're doing. I find there's a community nearby here in Danville, Virginia, that has $500,000 homes, about 2 acre lots for each home, beautiful homes, showcase homes. I've been there for a couple parties with friends, and they have chickens. Now, the general city doesn't have chickens. Somebody with a 1/4 acre lot doesn't have chickens, but this place has chickens. Now, you wouldn't know they had chickens except being in someone's backyard and seeing them, and they were well kept and well maintained, and they had a nice, beautiful garden area. In fact, the chickens worked in the garden. And I talk more about that kind of stuff on Prosperity Homestead, where you can grow your own small farm, homestead, or estate. But here at Sustainable Wealth Secrets, let's talk about the economic value of this. Now, it's very important. A lot of folks, you got to work with your tax professionals here, because another reason you might buy your home and then the homes around you is because of the home office deduction. You may live in a home and deduct a percentage of that home for your home office. And if you're already working out of your home, this gives you the flexibility to have an office and a conference room, or maybe multiple offices. A heart surgeon, I visited his home. The front section of his downstairs house is a kind of set up like an office. So there's this main living room area, And then there's 2 or 3 rooms off of there. One of the rooms is just record storage. 2 of the rooms are just set up as offices. And every morning, his assistants come by, he has 2 assistants, come by, and on a big screen, they go over the medical records for his week. So they'll go over all the x-rays, they'll go over the results from screening analysis and medical things, and they will set up the different surgical appointments that are going each day so that he can have everything in place. And then he'll go have a cup of coffee, he'll go relax a little bit, and then drive out to the hospitals to which he serves. That requires the home to have high-speed internet. That requires the home to have some level of privacy because he does have medical records at his home. It does require the home to be zoned in such a way to allow that and have adequate parking. But what it ultimately does is allow him to write off almost 25% of his home, all of his internet services, a lot of his electricity, and the other factors that legitimately support his role as a doctor. And you may not know it that many surgeons are actually independent contractors to the hospitals to which they work, and they work for a variety of hospitals all across the region. So buying up the house that you want, getting it quiet, getting it to where it needs to be, gives you the flexibility to be geographically located near your income sources, yet have the flexibility and privacy of a home office. There can be an oversupply in your marketplace, and actually buying up houses adjacent to each other and bulldozing some of them will increase the value of others. You can go in a neighborhood and select 3 or 4 homes that are right next to each other, maybe backed up to each other, bulldoze the less desirable ones or recycle them. And sometimes you can recycle homes for income. You can actually have all the fixtures removed and sold off, and that home then sent to a reclamation company. You may want to adjoin properties. You may want to hold them separately. It really depends on your area. But you finally get the benefit of the economy of scale. There's a gentleman near here that owns 23 homes. Now, owning 23 homes seems like a pain in the butt. But in our area, it's difficult to find good contractors, especially handyman and basic services for your everyday type of thing, landscaping and handyman services. Well, he has these 23 homes and 3 full-time employees, 1 handyman, 1 landscaper, and then 1 just general guy that helps out either way. But ultimately, he's able to put together teams of 15 to 20 people to do specific jobs because he has his trusted vendors, but he also has his project team. Now, his team has evolved over the years to include some project management work, so he can now maintain 23 homes easier than maintaining 1 home all by itself. And what's very valuable is he'll live in a home, so he'll acquire a new home, live in it for 2 years, and then turn it over to his company. And there's a buy-sell arrangement there that provides some lower taxes and then gets the property into a holding company, which then manages the properties. And it works out really well for him. So I want you to think about these things. These are unusual things. But I also want you to understand that this has some risks. So, for example, Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg are not buying up 5 to 10 properties all really far from each other. They're buying a primary residence and then buying the properties connected to that primary residence and then adjusting this platform, this cluster of houses according to their needs. They're also not buying the most expensive houses in their community. Now, I know Elon Musk is buying a multi-million-dollar house and Mark Zuckerberg bought tens of millions of dollars worth of property, but they're not buying the giant mansion that's in the middle of they're not buying the Biltmore estate and then buying the property around it. They're buying an average home and many average homes all connected to each other, and they're making one of those homes or a few of those homes extraordinary. And this is very important. You also don't want to be the most extraordinary house in a neighborhood because house prices tend to merge to average. So this thing could backfire. So you could buy a really nice home, buy the homes around them, bulldoze the homes around you. Now you end up with a 5-acre estate in the middle of quarter-acre lands, and now you can't sell that house. You can't move it if you have to. It depends on if you have a family office, you might, turn a big house like that. But there's an example here in the city of Martinsville. There's a house that once listed for $900,000 It's a beautiful 32-room mansion, except right butted up to it is a bunch of $100,000 houses. And while it would make an okay bed and breakfast, there just isn't enough traffic through this region in order to turn it into something useful. So you end up with a house that's on the market for many years, and it's pretty expensive to clean and maintain. Now, if you have one house that's a bit above average for the community, and maybe it's a little bit above average square footage, it's a little bit above average as far as the quality of the home, that's easier to move if you had to, especially if you've got a buffer zone around that property so that it doesn't stick out so much in a community. In Kinston, North Carolina, there's a lot of folks buying these, what would be considered a mansion, maybe a 10,000 square foot house. They buy the 10,000 square foot house on either side. They bulldoze the two houses on either side, reclaiming a lot of the materials to finish off one 10,000 square foot estate. But they're leaving behind a 2 to 3 acre property butted up to a country club. So there is some strategy to this. If you willy-nilly just buy a house, then buy the 4 houses around it, you could get screwed. Now, I have seen people go buy small houses, 1,000 square foot houses, 500 square foot houses, and they'll get like 8 or 10 of those on a block. So they'll get the one primary house that they're going to live in. They're going to get the ones on either side of it. They're going to get the ones behind it because their zoning allows to cluster all that together and then later build multifamily. So what they would end up doing is they buy the house that they could live in. It's 1,000 square foot. They end up with 5 properties over time, which they'll rent out to tenants. So that's cash flowing your property. So it also provides deductions. Again, it gives you the scale. It can build up a little privacy because you get to choose your neighbors. But then later they'll bulldoze all the houses, combine the properties, and put up a multifamily unit. So they may acquire 5 properties in a small cluster and end up with 40 units or 20 units or 10 units. And what that does then is multiplies the value of the land. Now, I'm not asking you to become a real estate developer. This is something that private individuals do. Elon Musk's family trust has purchased his properties. In fact, you can purchase these properties under separate LLCs. Nobody even know that you own all the adjoining properties. I purchased a house next door because the guy that was living there was making a huge mess. He had a barking dog all the time, and I needed access to eventually repair a retaining wall behind my house. So I was quoted $100,000 to replace a retaining wall next to my house. I bought the house next door for $70,000, and I got the retaining wall taken care of for $23,000 by bringing the heavy equipment down the driveway next door rather than my nice paved driveway. And so I was able to get a tax deduction, get cash flow from the property, get the retaining wall replaced, and do it all for the same price. Now, you might be saying, well, Justin, you still spent $100,000. Well, the difference is I was able to clear all the land behind the house, re-landscape, and while the property didn't shoot up in values like I expected it would, it actually has steadily increased in value, and I still have the cash flow from rental. And this is very important for you to understand. This isn't something that you're just going to do because what could be a home paradise could turn into a nightmare if you don't have a good plan. And that's why I'm bringing it to you here on Sustainable Wealth Secrets, because it is a wealth strategy. Does owning real estate fit in your portfolio? Does owning and developing land or transforming a community fit in your wealth plan? If you've got children, giving them a little bit of extra space to play in is wonderful. If you like to entertain, a larger than average home allows you to entertain in your home and you'll save a lot of venue fees. Do you like to have just peace and quiet? Well, that could be worth millions. In my case, my home here in Martinsville, Virginia is a permaculture demonstration site. I enjoy gardening. I got a permaculture certification. I've invested a lot of time and energy in learning about organic gardening, and I kind of enjoy walking out of my front door and being in a garden-like space. You can't do that in the townhouse we lived in Williamsburg. Now, there are some challenges and there are some surprises, so if you have questions, contact us at www.sustainablewealthsecrets.com. And how you structure these homes really matters. Mark Zuckerberg bought the homes around him and bulldozed some. Well, Elon Musk just purchased his homes. It's unclear whether he's going to bulldoze them, but it does look like in Elon Musk's case, he will rent some of those properties out. And really depending on the venue, and the last example I have is someone who bought a mansion that had a vineyard next to it. And so they bought this mansion, restored the mansion, and they actually host parties and make wine and really turned it into a destination. And that's a lot of what this is about. Having wealth and prosperity, having a high income, being an affluent individual has little value if you can't enjoy it. And if you have to enjoy it, spending money in ways that are like traveling and vacationing, very often that wealth is then dispersed to other people. Where if you invest in your local community, if you invest in real estate or your home, if you understand the concepts of assets that cash flow, because again, a home is not an asset unless you do something with it. It could be a major liability. But if you understand these things, you can put them together to transform your living space, to transform your community, and to transform your wealth. I'm Justin Hitt with Sustainable Wealth Secrets. Thanks for listening. If you have any questions, visit www.sustainablewealthsecrets.com.